So we got Joe Johnson on the line. A little bit about Joe Johnson, and feel free to step in if I messed up anywhere. But you said earlier you were 11 Bravo and 11 Charlie.
Yep.
You were in a few different brigades. You were in 2nd Brigade with 101st. That's where we first locked eyes.
Yep.
You were 2nd Brigade at 25th, and you got out as an E6.
That is correct. You nailed it.
Now, after you got out, you became a finance director for your local school district.
Yeah.
And since then has transitioned to now you work with Risk Youth, which isn't really any different than managing privates, but
Well, you nailed it. It's actually managing privates that you can't smoke, which is horrible. Yeah, I did a couple entrepreneurially things in between.
oh yeah.
And you remember switching camos?
Yeah, switching camo.
And finally, I just kind of I need to slow down a little bit, spend some time with the family, and me and my wife kind of came to terms that when the kids are grown and gone, then I can go back after it. So put everything on hold for a decade or something, and we'll get back after it. I still got a couple things in the wheelhouse I mess around with, but
yeah. So remind me again, what was switching camo?
Well, it was so I'm a big outdoor guy, hunting and fishing, and after I got out, I started helping film for a TV show called Bloodline. The guy I was filming and I was just running the camera was a veteran too, and we were on a hunting trip up in Kentucky one time, and I just started brainstorming and said, wouldn't it be cool if we did something where we just took veterans out and they told their stories and kind of got to explain what they're doing, but in a TV show format. So we built it up. I ran with it for a while. I learned a lot of things, good and bad. But with work and life and having kids, I kind of ran out of time, and so I sold it to the guy that kind of helped me start it, and it was good. I enjoyed it while it lasted, and it's time to try something else. So obviously Corona right now, the market's going to be booming here in a year. So that's kind of where I focus a lot of my energy is getting in some of these industries where they're hurting right now. And
yeah,
after that, we'll see. I don't know, maybe some property in Belize, or I don't know. We'll see what's up. You got to keep your options open. My wife makes fun of me on a daily basis, but I always got something going on.
Costa Rica, man.
Yeah, I help with the Pheasant Forever chapter here locally. I'm a trust at the local community college, a board of trustee, and I like to volunteer my time and dabble in a lot of different things. And hey, Johnson for president 2055 or something like that. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think politics is in my future, but everything else is fair game. I'll try anything once. So
yeah. Nice. And so E6, 11 Bravo, 11 Charlie, and then you get out and you're working in finance in your local school district. Then you're working with, at-risk youth. How was that transition? Complicated, easy, very similar?
So when I got out, obviously I had my own soldiers. I had started college, and I'm sure we'll dive into that. But so I was pretty much, I think I had a semester and a half left after I got out. So I was pretty much done with my bachelor's. Used the GI Bill to go on and get my master's. I kind of grew up in a household. My dad was always in business. He was kind of always a finance guy, and I kind of always assumed that's where I was headed. I was gonna be running a business someday, one way or the other, and I loved what I did. I did some marketing stuff, kind of in the outdoor industry, part of switching camo, and but I didn't want to do the traveling it was going to require to be successful, and so I set my boundaries. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I was not willing to give up to do it, and I had to find a happy medium. So the finance director job came open. I like finance. I like economics. I'm not an accountant. It is very much an accountant job with a lot of hats. Managed anywhere between $8 and $12 million a year. Great. I learned a lot. Like all these things, and we'll probably hit on a lot of them tonight. I went in with a blank slate, and I tried to learn as much as I could, even if it was, I mean, school finance is its own realm. You'll never use it anywhere else in the world. I mean, it is, if you're not in school finance, all that stuff you learned is pretty much worthless, but I was able to learn it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, that was my first real dive into the civilian sector, which education can be kind of soft compared to what we're used to. So it was a big learning curve. I mean, and as an infantry guy, you didn't work around a lot of females. So I had to kind of retool myself, and I think it went well. I learned really quickly that as a finance director, you don't get summers off. And my wife also taught at the district, and I'd come home, and I didn't mind working in the summer, but it was tough coming home and seeing her get to spend the day with the boys. And I said, you know what, this at-risk job, which is kind of keeping kids from dropping out, opened up, and I said, we could probably do something like that. So tried it, loved it. First job I've really loved, or first thing I've really dabbled into since getting out, that kind of fills that void a little bit. Like having privates, I get some students that get it and they square themselves away. I got others that do not, and you always got that problem child private, just like I got a problem child student that you take under your wing and you try to build them and mold them, and sometimes they succeed your expectations, sometimes they fall flat on their face. But either way, I mean, I've now, again, this is my first year doing it, and the virus kind of shut things down. But up until February and March, I was loving it. I really was. It was a good deal, and I'm in a good district. I like the people I work with. Students are good. So, I mean, life's good, bro. I mean, bills are paid, kids are fed. I mean, I got no worries in the world. And sadly, a lot of people around us right now aren't in the same situation. So I'm blessed. Blessed beyond belief.
Yeah.
Just grateful for everything we got.
Now you kind of touched on it, but did you have a plan? Did you have a vision of what you were doing? And is this it? Like, I'll be very, very, very blunt.
Yeah, good. No, that's
the plan for me.
Did I plan on being in education? No, that was not my plan. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about being flexible and being prepared for the situation at hand. But so you know me well enough. I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. I think debt is stupid. It's a waste of time. Stop blowing your money. Since me and my wife, we've been married, August will be 12 years, and I'm 32. So we got married just before I turned 21. Young, very young. We were both soldiers. But since that point, I mean, we've never had car loans. We never take on debt. I mean, we owe for our house. Obviously, that's pretty hard to do in this day and age. But we're throwing money extra at that. I mean, we don't do debt. And if there's one thing I can tell soldiers is they're getting out. I mean, if you're owing on that Jeep Wrangler you just had to have, or that Dodge Ram, I mean, it's going to make your life that much harder when you get out. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Absolutely. I mean, you can make payments. You're going to get a job. But if you think you're going to live in mom and dad's basement and make that $800 car payment, you're crazy, dude. Get out of here. So that was one thing that, obviously, being a finance guy like you, that's one thing that was big for me. The other thing is, me and my wife, we started early. When we were both in, we were doing night classes. I mean, even at Campbell, bro, I mean, I remember getting up. I was out of the house by 4:30 to be there by 5. I mean, you know how that is. Yeah. And I think we took classes together. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
I think so,
6 to 10 at night. So you're talking about getting home at 10 at night and busting out some homework, eating something, and going back to bed and doing it all over 5-6 hours later. I mean, it was not easy. Deployments, I mean, I did two decently long deployments to Iraq. One was 15 and one was just at a year. And between that and NTC and the train up, I mean, you're talking a year and a half of your life's gone. But I always seem to find a way to plug away a couple classes on deployment. And I mean, I'm an infantry dude. We're doing patrols daily basis, just like anybody else. I realize if you're in some of these COBs in Afghanistan, internet's not happening. But so yeah, I couldn't sit around and find a good enough excuse not to better myself. If that's in the Army or outside the Army, I'm the kind of guy that I got to be doing something. So it rained here today, and I just about went bonkers because I wasn't able to get out and chop up some trees or mow or do something. So I like stay busy. And I think as far as the plan front goes, you always got to be improving your position, right? I mean, if it's setting in security or filling sandbags, I consider life the same way. What can I be doing right now to better myself?
Yeah.
So.
You definitely touched on some things that are unique, and we'll definitely hit on those. But
see, that's where hopefully we don't get as heated as last time. I think everybody should be this way, but I guess that's why I'm weird, right?
Yeah. No, not weird. Individualistic a word? I think it is. We're gonna use that one. But
all right.
before we get into that, and I don't want to say heated, it's passionate, because when I say heated, my mind goes to we started, throwing cuss words, and
we were never angry at each other. That's my favorite thing is we can have a debate where we completely disagree, but 5 minutes later we're joking through text or whatever. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's lost in society, right? Is when you can disagree on something you're passionate about and still have respect for the person.
Oh, that's something that I was taught from a great team leader I had.
I think, but it comes from our background, right? Like, I don't like you as a person, but I respect the rank, right?
Yeah, thanks. No, but I had an awesome team leader early on, and he's like, he told me, he's like, you have to get to learn your soldiers, and he's like, you're gonna learn some that you could smoke all day long because they're dipshit, and then go have drinks with later, and they're not gonna take it personally. Nope. And you have people that you could get in their face one time, and they're gonna hate you and think you're the worst person ever. So, I mean, I learned early on that and this is something that happened between me and my team leader, is that he would smoke my balls because I was messed up, as a private. All I want to do was party and drink, so I'd get caught up a lot. But so he'd smoke me and teach me on my lesson. He's like, dude, why don't you come by later and have some beers? And I go out there and it'd act like nothing happened. Obviously, we still have the professionalism where we could have drinks, and tomorrow I'm like, dude, we just had drinks. Now you're trying to tell me what to do. What's up? You have to also understand, we can drink and be whatever and be buddies, and then tomorrow he's gonna go back to tell me what to do, and I have to keep it professional, not personal. So
that power difference, and I think that's one thing that I brought to the civilian world that sometimes it befuddles some of the people I work for. And my bosses, I mean, I think my bosses are grateful for it, right? I think my bosses are grateful for it because they can dig into me and I don't take it personal and pout about it. But I think sometimes my coworkers are kind of flabbergasted that I'm not mad. Well, he's just doing his job. Why would I be mad at him for trying to make me a better teacher or better person or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So, no, that's a skill to hang on to. I mean,
yeah. And it's not issued out. Like I used to say with common sense, I used to tell privates, if it's not on your CIF record, you probably don't have it. A little joke there. Right. But before we dive in to the main event, round 2, how did we meet?
Oh shoot.
I was an air assault instructor,
I walked
right?
in that bar one. You were wearing that cute dress I like. It was all downhill. It was all
Pink
downhill.
Was always your shade. Pink was always your shade.
I showed up to Sabalowski Air Assault School, like, this is gonna be a fun time. And here's this joke cracking air assault instructor. All the ladies loved you. All the guys wanted to be you. I mean, it was nuts. So I don't know. That was the first time, but I never thought we'd actually cross paths again. And it was maybe a year or two later. We were in.
Well, I was only there for 2 years, so it had to be within probably one year period, because I don't think you were with one of my first classes. But then,
no, I couldn't.
Lo and behold, I start college.
It was the Bat Lady. I can't even. What class was it? And I say that your readers are gonna be like, the Bat Lady. No, she was big into bats, wasn't it? It was a science class we took together, and she was like all about these bats and their runny noses or something.
Yeah, she was heavy into the local, like, Clarksville, Oak Grove, Hopkinsville bat society.
Hopefully someone posts something about it. Was something about bats and runny noses. That's all I remember. But yeah, so I dang near failed that class. Learned quickly that I was not cut out for the medical field.
Yeah.
And switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like anything else, I had 4 different plans going on at once, and I thought PA school would be pretty legit. So I was taking classes on the side, and that was one of them, to maybe apply to PA school. And the Bat Lady taught me really quickly that I was not going to be doing that. So we doubled down on the old business classes and knocked it out.
Yeah, and then And then we started hanging out.
Yeah, I mean
Started becoming besties.
I don't know if that was a good choice on either our part. There's probably some Cinco de Mayo pictures floating around.
Oh yeah. I might get this. I might get this up, but I just sent you that one of Jose. Got to put the extra emphasis
I forgot
on
all.
the JH
Where that
sound.
came from, I don't know. It always seems like that time of year they pop back up. It was a joyous time.
It was. We started off at the Black Horse where we had dinner, and then we went to Gilroy's, right?
I couldn't remember what that was. The Black Horse is a good place.
Yeah.
Shout out that's their free plug for all 14 people watching this.
Yeah. But well.
Before we continue on, can I real quick?
Yeah.
Is it not crazy how fast? Like the only advice I give to privates or young NCOs, lieutenants, whoever, how fast that all goes by. Like, I wish we would have lived a little bit more in the moment and enjoyed the time.
Yeah, buddy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Not to get too sentimental real quick, but yeah, man. I mean, thinking about that stuff, man, it seems like ages ago.
Oh, shoot, that was we're almost going on. So I was at aerosol school. 11, when was I there? 11 to 13.
Yeah,
I think so. We're going. Yeah. I was thinking like, so the dude I was shown the first podcast, I met him in Korea, and we're going on 13 years.
Isn't that
like
nuts, dude?
That's crazy. It's like 13 years. I mean, I feel old as shit, but 13 years makes
you are old as shit. Can we say shit? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. I'll write the. Hold on. I'm taking notes here.
So for what a lot of people don't know is that what we're about to get into is very opinionated on both of our sides, but this is actually phase 2.
Mine is strictly factual. Make sure that's noted.
Yep. I'll note that in my notes. But so this is actually the second part. The first part, you had called me because I reached out to you about doing a podcast on, which I still have yet to do, is other different types of veterans. And then we got into, and I remember finance being the big one, because I think more people should be taught finance as like a curriculum, as a military curriculum, and you disagreed on whatever. So then we got into, should the military do more or less to prepare you for life after you serve, with a focus on, you are really focused on, they should promote individual thinking, individualism, individuality. I could be making up words right now, I don't know. And I think that it's harder to do. They should and could absolutely do it. But then a little bit from our conversation, and then from my first podcast, where Sean said that it's not the Army that has the mentalities, and they do have the mentality and some of this, but it's actually the leadership, it's the individuals. So it's very doable, but I still think a lot of it should be part of the doctrine. And this is where we're going to say, in case anyone wants to know, I am pro the Army military. I say Army because that's the branch we were in, but I think the military should do more to prepare you for life after. And I can get into why I think that. And you think that's a little silly because you already think that they coddle us. They do too much for us. And that is part of the reason why most veterans fail on the outside. It's because they don't have all that support. Am I right in saying that? Did I miss anything? How's that all sound?
I don't think most veterans. Should we just skip right to the cuss words? Or we just ignore each other? Or, I don't think most veterans fail. I think it's actually exaggerated how many struggle.
Yeah.
I think that most of them kind of land on their feet in their own realm of what they think life should look like. I mean, I don't think all veterans get out and make $1 million. I think there's some that do, absolutely. But $1 million isn't for everybody. Some people just want a quiet little cabin on the lake. I mean, I'm not one to judge, but yeah, spot on. I mean, I think you are what you eat. If you put good stuff in, you're going to get good stuff back out. So you're not doing, if you're not improving your position, you're going to struggle. You gotta always be moving forward. So no, I think you hit it on the head. I think that soldiers need to take individual responsibility for what they're doing.
Yeah. And so we come from different backgrounds outside the military, but inside the military, because I wouldn't say necessarily for myself that I had bad leadership, but it sure as shit wasn't promoted. Hey, who wants to go to college? Go get enrolled. who wants to take some time during the workday and go take care of, like, go speak with a financial planner or anything like that. It was, and maybe it just wasn't me thinking outside the box, but it was, how can you make yourself a better soldier for that unit, that team, that squad, that platoon? It wasn't like, oh, at some point you're going to separate yourself, even if it made you a better soldier now. There's a lot of blinders on for people. There's blinders on for people who are like, I don't really see how getting your finances together are going to make you a better soldier, even though that was a part of their realm. If I started bouncing checks, if I didn't pay my rent or something like that, I very much could get hemmed up, could get UCMJ, but no one was on the flip side of that. But like, you know what? You're just making all this money instead of coming back from deployment and buying a brand new truck and living in the barracks. How about you go speak to someone who could talk to you about, your retirement and stuff like that. So, and the finance, again, we go back to finance because that's a big one where I think there should be finance classes. I think there should be more civilian classes because the military, they like to say that you're a soldier 24/7. They'll hem you up anytime they want. They can come to your house and check in your living situation, but they don't go on the flip side and be like, you're a soldier 24/7. Let's make sure that you know how to file your taxes and all that stuff. Because again, in my experience is, if you join the Army at 17, or the military at 17, really the military is making you a man. So they should teach you some of those things. And that's where we got also into the pretty passionate conversation about, well, the civilian sector doesn't do that. If you are 18 and you move out of your house, there isn't going to be anyone to help you do that. So, yes. So if you want to speak to some of that, and then
absolutely. Yeah. First, I guess my overarching thing that we always go back to is Google is a hell of a thing, right? I mean, if you have any doubts about anything in life, like what this weird spot on my ass is, or how to balance a checkbook, you can Google that. Like,
yep.
Now, I'm not saying, hey, Google everything and then use that as your investing strategy, not by any means. But, I mean, I remember getting I laugh, sorry. I remember getting counseled on not buying $500 TVs and not doing this. And they would remount the soldier that bought the 70-inch flat screen, which I don't think we even had those back then, but they wouldn't explain to him why that's a bad decision, right? Like, hey, you're stupid for doing this, but I'm not going to tell you why you're stupid.
Yep.
And I think half of that is probably because the NCO was up to their eyeballs in debt because their wife's running around with Louis Vuitton purses and their kids are going to private school wearing Jordans. Like, so I was a little hypocritical. I guess not hypocritical, but I was a little angry that, hey, you're going to lecture me about finances when my net worth is twice yours. And I've been doing this private thing, and that's it. I mean, I didn't come from a trust fund, but I'm smart enough to save my money, and you're going to hound me about saving. Like, that doesn't make it. What are you talking about? So I don't think it's on the Army to make sure you don't default on a car loan, but I do think that, you know what, WLC or whatever it's called, maybe let's throw a little Dave Ramsey finance class. Hey, and we don't need to go on into mutual funds versus ETFs versus bonds or stocks. And no, let's just do, hey, how to stay out of debt.
Yep.
How to teach soldiers about debt. Like I don't know. Some of the worst seem to be senior enlisted. I don't know how many first sergeants are divorced 3 times, net worth in the negative, but they're driving that nice truck, and it's like, hey, first sergeant, like, what are you doing? Like, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're going to get out in 25 years, and you're going to be hurting. So.
But also, your story's a little unique because you had supportive chain of command, right? Like, no one ever said, "Why are you going to school?" or anything. Or
I'll tell you what, and I might get hemmed up for this.
Who's gonna hem you up?
I don't know. President El Presidente.
Your wife is the only one that can do that now.
No, because all my buddies will listen to this that were some of my commanders. In Hawaii, I had great commanders. I had a tanker once. And then I think the rest were pretty much infantry. But I'll tell you what, and I've told you this story, but I never took tuition assistance paperwork to a commander and get it denied.
Mm-hmm.
I got it back the same day generally. Gave it to my squad leader took the platoon.
Probably because there's only one going across their desk.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember I had one, definitely one, maybe 2 commanders bring me in and actually like, hey, you're doing the right damn thing. Like, keep it up. Like, don't quit. And that's the polar opposite from what as you know, I heard in the Ed Center. So the Ed Center in Hawaii is like a square sitting area with like 4 offices around the outside, and the 4 offices were the counselors, and you had to go see a counselor before you did anything, yada yada yada. And I'm sitting there before I even see a counselor, and this staff sergeant says, hey, I didn't know him. I hope he listens to this to realize how much of an a-hole he is.
Oh, now this is where you
like,
make a staring.
he said the most un-NCO thing ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, pep talk. Yeah, like I'm going to go to college. He's like, your commander's never going to sign this. And I think I was an E1, maybe E2. Like, I never really thought I'd go to college joining the Army. Like, I never thought that was my thing. But I saw it as an opportunity. And really, because I'm a finance guy, I saw free money. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go get them to pay for this. And he's like, you need to get out of here. Your commander will never say you're stupid for doing this. And like, literally browbeat me for like 5-10 minutes. And I walked out of there like, wow, what a waste of time. Like, I never even took it to a squad leader, never did nothing. And
Yeah.
I don't know, a year maybe went by, and I met my wife, who was also in the Army. She was a POG stationed down at Hickam Air Force Base, so down southern part of the island, and she was knocking it out, bro. I mean, she was definitely my inspiration because she was tearing it. She was, I mean, her commander, her first sergeant, they were all on board. They wanted her doing it, and they actually, and this is where I think we got to get you off the combat arms and get you to some people that are much softer skilled. They're all about it. I mean, I'd put First Sergeant Long on here, and he could tell you. I mean, they pushed. If you didn't want to go, you're going. Like, you need to get this done. It betters you. So I definitely think there are. We can say the Army, but there's so many different realms within the Army, and I think we kind of know that. But
yeah, I think that's where we need to be really specific.
So I kind of started. I think I took my first class on BIOP in 2007 while running combat patrols. I mean, and it wasn't easy, and that's what I want anybody that listens to this that's still in. Like, when you're feeling sorry for yourself and you don't want to go to class, we were doing 2 patrols a day. I'd come home. I'd wake up, go to the gym. We'd knock out a couple patrols or mission or whatever it was. And then when everybody else was going to bed, I was still on the computer doing homework.
Yep.
And I was grinding it out. I was also in the best shape of my life. So it's not like I was sitting in the chew, not going to the gym, but I prioritized. So instead of picking up that Xbox controller, I opened my laptop up. Now, that's not to say I didn't play a little Xbox, but you might get called out for a battle handover, and you run out there, or a TST or something, and when you get home, it's 4 a.m. and the sun's coming up. You're like, man, I can't go to sleep. So I knock out a couple hours, and then I get tired and go to bed. So it's just bettering yourself a priority. Put it in the forefront of what you're doing. And as a soldier, you should know, hey, as you better yourself, you're better in your team, you're better in your squad, you're better in your platoon. And you're also motivating the people around you. And it's not a greedy thing. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But I realize as I grow with knowledge base, I'm able to help other people. So as I became a squad leader, I was able to help my soldiers financially because I knew what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah.
Which is probably debatable. I still don't know what I'm talking about.
But that's, and we've had this conversation before, is where you're very, you're an individual thinker, very individualistic, versus the military. They're trying to mass produce people. And up until recently, when I say recently, I got out in 2015, but in the last few years, when they finally introduced the new promotion system and college was a bigger piece, I mean, even then, college was only looked at as, I need promotion points. So it's and that's why I think that people struggle just with college, with ASAP, with anger management, all that stuff, all those programs that people could be using to better themselves, they don't know about, or the only thing they know about is it's a negative thing. And a lot of, like, you remember as an E6, a lot of your soldiers, they're only going to know what you teach them. Because in the Army, I mean, it's drinking and partying. You have, I mean, that's what I did for a lot of my time in, but that's what I saw. That's what I was around. But seeing people going to college, I mean, I remember walking through the Ed Center at Fort Campbell, and I wasn't the normal soldier that was in there. You were seeing a lot of the higher ranking people, a lot of people that I could assume were in the, you can tell by how someone's appearance, they're in a softer skill.
Yes.
Or a
Yeah.
lot of people had that manila folder. They were either in
How can
processing or out
indicate
processing.
yeah.
So, but so again, back to, do we think the military should do more to prepare you for the outside, help you be an individual thinker? And I just think, because I remember your side, and I'm sure you'll speak to this, but if you support or if you promote individual thinking, you're going to lose control of combat readiness. And I say that as in the fact, like, remember we talked about, okay, let's make Joe more financially self-sufficient, and I'm going to say Joe will always fuck you. That's obviously a common phrase that we all know. But let's say, and I'm going to use the DFAC or the meal card thing, is a lot of times you didn't want to give a young soldier BAH, BAS, because then you were putting in his arms, all right, you give this dude an extra $600 a month. How do you know that he's going to eat? How do you know he's going to give yourself 3 square meals versus I'm going to spend it on going to Cat West, drinking my money away, giving it to Juicy's if you're, in Korea. And then once you have your soldiers that are malnutrition, then it affects your combat readiness. Versus if you keep that struggle and you don't support individual thinking, or you support that, or you close that noose, you don't support individual thinking, then all right, everyone has a meal card. They're going to be starving. Really, the only chance they have to go to eat are these 1 hour blocks. They're going to go in there. They only have so much. They're going to eat that salad. They're going to eat that steak, those potatoes. You're putting more control on it. Therefore, you're doing a better job controlling combat readiness. But you are saying, you're the example, and I'm sure you'll repeat it and say it better than me, but the example is a Joe will go 3-4 days without eating right before he gets his shit together. And I don't see that. So where do you stand on that? And if I chopped it up, clean it up for me.
No, I think why do you have soldiers that are just great deployment soldiers and horrible garrison soldiers? It's all the same thing. If you're going to handicap someone at the knees, they're only going to succeed as far as you allow them to.
Yep.
I'm not saying that if we give soldiers more freedom, that they're not going to fail. We know they're going to fail. Mm-hmm. But isn't that a part of life? Like, since when is failing wrong? So as we open these soldiers to be able to start thinking for themselves, like, I guess I'll steal from Travis Haley. Hopefully he doesn't come back with a lawsuit, but Travis Haley's a guy that does a lot of private firearm instruction. Phenomenal dude, Marine Corps vet. He always talks about thinkers before shooters. Mm-hmm. In a lot of his classes, I've never taken one. If he wants to send me a voucher for a free one, I'm not mad about it. A lot of his classes, from what I've seen online, is what are you processing? What are you thinking? What state of mind are you in right now before you ever pull that trigger, right? And then there's the mechanics and all that. But I think that's the same thing. Like, instead of just training soldiers on the maximum effective range of a 240, which might or might not be irrelevant, because if the dude's on the other hillside, we're shooting at him, even if he's outside the maximum effective range. Like, I don't know that I ever had a squad leader say, wait, you're outside the maximum effective range. Like that. So I'm not saying that we get away from that old school infantry stuff, but there's definitely a space there that we can start filling some soldiers' heads with some things that are not combat related, but will in turn make them a better combat soldier. So during my first deployment, 07 to 09, we had what I would call like a career specialist. He was in one of those phone trailers, you know what I'm talking about, where they line you up side by side and you can make calls home.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's throwback. He was a 240 gunner, drew his 9mm, and shot himself in the head right there in the trailer. He was in a different company, but with soldiers all around him, and I'm probably going to butcher it, and I hope I don't insult the family, but I believe his wife was having an extramarital affair and had left him. But was there things that we could have done for him that maybe could have made the home life more solidified, or mm-hmm. maybe could have made the wife a little bit more confident or happy in the marriage, that could have kept him alive, which then in turn would have kept that gun team together, which then in turn would have kept a fire team support. You see where I'm going? Yeah. So in the rash of suicide, as you know, I have a brother-in-law that passed away from suicide after deployment. And were there things we could have done pre and post deployment to make him successful? I believe so. But I don't think it all falls at the Army's fault. They're at the
Yep.
Army's feet. I think eventually you have to walk into mental health and say, man, I got to man up. This is what I got to do. And I see walking into mental health being more of a man than skipping out and taking your anger out on your soldiers.
Yeah.
I got no time for a guy that punishes soldiers because he can't look in the mirror. Like, get out of here. So I still stand by the Army's doing a decent job for a giant government organization that we all know governments never do a decent job at much, but a decent job at trying to support soldiers. But it's on soldiers and young leaders to step up to the plate and make sure we're getting these guys to where they need to be.
That's it. See, and that's where we'll disagree, because that's very individual thinking. Is I'm going to be a man, and I'm going to go to mental health when it's not the culture, when there is the stigma, and I've had this conversation 100 times. It's older than we are. It goes back generations. Like I remember looking at my grandfathers. One was in the Marines during the Korea era. One was in World War II. But the Marine, he was a huge John Wayne fan. And this is why I say it's generational is let's think to who World War II, Korea, Vietnam, who do they look up to as the ideal definition of a man? You looked at like John Wayne and Cagney and them, and you look at the movies, because that's where a lot of people get their ideals of a man is not necessarily at home, which I hope I'm doing a better job of that. But you look to the movies, and what did you see in those really tough guy movies? Is John Wayne, let's just say John Wayne in the old Wild Wild West, because the Wild West movies were huge. He'd shoot Indians, he'd shoot bad guys like it was nothing, like it didn't faze him. He'd throw back a few shots of whiskey, maybe smack a woman around, and everyone's like, oh man, I need to be John Wayne. And then you go to the newer generations, the people after Vietnam, you're looking at like, I don't know what happened after Vietnam. There was Grenada, and then there was the Gulf War, and there's now, who are we looking at? We're looking at like the John McCain's, or no, I'm not saying that right.
Yeah, let's not use that one.
No. Die Hard.
Oh, yeah, well, that's John McCain, yeah.
Yeah.
Different one.
So that's who we're looking at. McClane, there's an L in it. John McClane.
There it is, yeah.
So we're looking at those guys as being our tough guys. And the same thing, dudes walking over glass barefoot, making a one-liner, a pun, shooting guys and not having any issues. And that's where we're seeing it. But then outside of the movies, outside of that is who are a lot of the combat veterans looking at, or who are a lot of people in the military looking at? They're looking at previous generations. People struggle with, how can I say I have problems when I see people from Vietnam, and I may have lost one dude in a year and they lost 10 dudes in a single mortar attack. So we look at those guys. How do those guys deal with it? How do the guys from World War II deal with it? Like my grandfather, all he did was drink. I learned at a very young age how to mix his drinks. It was a little bit of, you start off with, it was like ice. Yeah, ice. And then there was a little bit of Jack Daniels, and you pour in the soda. That's what it was. You never saw a dude crying. You never saw like the old timers getting on the phone with someone that they served with and crying and talk about the good times. I'm sure they did that, behind the scene. So we get that idea as a tough guy. So, and I'm sure we're still seeing it. I know I was still seeing it when I was in, but to say, oh, I'm going to be the tougher person and go to mental health, I'm still seeing people struggle that outside,
but mental health doesn't have to be crying either. I mean, I think that's where we get, and I get your reference, but I think that's where we got to step back and look at our Vietnam era veterans, and realize that they recognize they messed up.
Yep.
Now, I'm not speaking for all Vietnam era veterans, but I help with a golf program just north of here, about an hour on Saturdays, and they teach veterans at the Iowa City VA how to golf. And a lot of them are older veterans, much older than us. It's the GIVE program. There's their free cheap plug. Great program, amazing program. They also, the same golf course puts on the T tournament, which is a huge national disabled veteran golf tournament. Amazing. Look it up. Anyway, point of the story is, when I get to sit and talk with these guys, like I'm thinking of one guy in particular, awesome guy, huge, like handlebar mustache, very laid back. He was a scout dog handler. He was an infantry dude.
Mm-hmm.
I think his generation recognizes that they did things that I think our conflicts pale in comparison to Vietnam. Obviously, World War II. I mean, those two are far beyond anything that most of us did. I think anybody in the global war on terror will say that. But I think they realized that A, they came home to a completely different situation, and B, they might have missed the boat. They might have self-medicated. But those guys are the reason that we need to stop having so much pity on ourselves. And I'm getting a little bit away from mental health, because I think going to mental health is not pitying yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Going to mental health is like going to a doctor when you have cancer. You got to take care of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that is a medical thing. That is not like, you're crazy if you're going to have like a tumor growing on your leg. Like, oh no, I'm just going to let it fester. Extra shot of Jack tonight. It's going to clear up. Like, no one does that. But the pity ourselves is where I think we need to take responsibility for what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too often nowadays, like anything in life, there's the yin to the yang, right? Like, so people came home from Vietnam, and it was not a good situation. And as Americans, we should be completely disgusted with how we treat Vietnam veterans. But no group of veterans have had it as good as global war on terrorism veterans, right? Like we really have reaped from the anguish that the Vietnam veterans had. Like, Americans feel horrible for what they did to Vietnam veterans. So global war on terrorism, we've had it so good. I mean, from hiring preferences to military discounts, like, we have it so good. We're doing such a disservice to the generations that came before us if we don't stand up and start taking care of business.
Yep.
And I guess that's why I get frustrated when there is the Ed Center. There is all these programs for veterans and people still in, and yet not all we hear about, that's not fair, but what we hear about a lot is, pity me, I can't do it, I wasn't spoon-fed this crap, I wasn't told, and this is obviously not on you, but
Yeah.
I wasn't told this, I didn't know it'd be this hard. Shut the F up. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, that Vietnam vet walking around Walmart was spit on, get out of here. Like, I have no sympathy for a global war on terrorism vet that, especially if he's not a combat veteran. Like, if you have all your body parts still and you can't go figure out something you want to do with the rest of your life, get out of here, dude.
You're hitting on some topics there.
Oh, dude. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to me because I am an individual, and I'm not saying you need to go be a doctor. I don't, like my dad used to say. I mean, I'd get in trouble like any infantry kid all the time. And Dad would sit me down and he'd harp at me. And then at the end of it, he'd be like, I don't care what you do. You can go be a garbage man. But you're going to be the best goddamn garbage man you've ever seen. And that sticks with me to this day. I'm not going to say I'm the best at-risk teacher there is, I wasn't the best finance, but I always try to improve. I still do that to the day in everything. I was just over at my neighbor's house learning how to fly fish because I don't know how to fly fish, but I want to learn.
Yep.
I'll do anything once. So I think we owe it to all the generations before us and ourselves to be the best American citizens we can be, to be the better generation. Yeah. Why is the generation 5 generations ago the greatest generation that ever lived? The greatest generation should be the one coming up right now because they've been able to learn from everybody prior. My great-grandpa cut his teeth turning over fields in Kentucky to make my life better. Now, I might not directly see that, but that's what happened. And five grandpas before that, one of my grandpas was some of the first to come over to America. Like, they bettered themselves to make it easier on their children, who then made it easier on their – like, we have it so easy, dude.
Yeah.
Like – I don't know. I'm going to take up all 1 hour of this thing, but man, I just get heated. There's something you can do to make your situation. I'm not saying people can't struggle. There are government programs to help you. WIC, food stamps. If you need that, get on it. But if you become a career food stamp advocate, we need to probably step back and be like, hey, can we be doing something else?
Yep.
I think generational poverty is real, and I think it's hard to break, but I think there are things we can be doing. And as soon as you join the military, you pretty much take generational poverty and you break it in half. And you say, you know what, because as soon as you join the military, they make it so you can be successful. So as veterans, which is what we're talking about here, it's hard to have sympathy for a dude that did a couple years at Fort Campbell or Fort Knox or Fort Hood, got out. I'm a soft skill S1 kind of dude, got out and just falls on his ass. Like, I'm sorry, bro. I mean, I got buddies that lost both legs and he's killing it. Water skiing, like the dude's an animal. But you start looking at his DD214, you can see why he's an animal. Ranger tab, I mean, excellent squad leader, 1-on-1 on NCBR. Like, he got after it. So
Yeah.
I think it's more on the individual person and their drive to succeed than it is on what the government can do to step in and help.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it. All factually founded, by the way. Can you put that in the bottom? Like, hey, this was researched heavily.
Little flash.
Yeah.
Everything Joe Johnson says is based off of facts.
Breaking news. Here it is.
Okay, so again, a lot of things you said, and you are very much looking at the military, looking at the mentality of the military. You are very individualistic, and I think based off of, I mean, you can look at numbers. Just look at the numbers of the people that you know and I know, whether they're still in your circle of friends or not. How many people are successful, how many aren't. But like I'll be completely honest. I'm one of those people that falls right into. I had the blinders on. I did what I could to make myself the best soldier. I wasn't thinking about what was next. And I use like a funny example is I've been out for 5 years. I've been at the job I'm at now for a little over a year. And when I was filling out my W-2 for this job, you know, I completely honest, I still don't know how to fill one out. But the one question, are you head of household? I was like, hell yeah, I'm the head of household. I'm the only one motherfucking working. My wife is working hard, taking care of my 3 kids. I'm the fucking the head of the household. Come to find out, that's not what that means.
No,
that's
no,
if you have if you're separated and have dependents, something like that. But so, I mean, I was one of those people that fell right into. I wasn't thinking next step. I wasn't thinking, do I have the skills to be successful outside? And that is why I think, you know, until the Army is going to push that individual thinking, they need to get they need to include into their doctrine some of those skills. You know, how to file your own taxes, the difference between pre-tax and post-tax, because you're going to get hard with what, especially me, I was an E6 getting paid for 15 years of service. There's a big difference between what I was taking home in the military versus what I had to take home when I got out because of what was taxed, what wasn't taxed. But, and then there's that saying that I have that I wish I should have it memorized, but I don't, but a better prepared service member makes for a better veteran, something of that nature. So everything that we're talking, you think that there should be more support for individuality. I think there should be more included in the doctrine for all those people that are just going to be the cookie cutter soldiers, you know, I want to say robot, but, you know, just do what they can to be the best at the military. That will prepare you better for, you know, life afterwards. And so we will go to 20 plus veterans a day are taking their lives. I don't have the statistics on why, you know, it was brought to my attention through research and through my last conversation with Sean, is that, you know, obviously finances, I believe finances are number one, and then personal relationships, but then there's finances is you know, the big one. Were you ready? Like, so I got out in April. I started my next job 6 months later. Thank God I just one day in the military was like, I'm going to do a TSP. Thank God I had that money to fall back on, because unemployment doesn't kick in right away. Like, and nobody's thinking about that. Everyone's going to get out. They're going to go to school.
Young soldiers out there, TSP is not for you to fall back on. Just so it is a retirement account.
Yeah. Well,
but Eric had to do it. So he did it.
Yeah.
He got through.
Yeah, exactly. So again, and how many people are promoting the TSP in the military? How many people even know what it is? Hey, so I only had that, like you said, that was a retirement account. I should have been penalized for using that money, but at least I had money in there that helped me to pay my bills. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't, how many soldiers have a savings that they could do? Because people think they're going to go to school when they get out, they're going to go back and sit in their parents' house. Well, guess what? Your mom and dad have turned your bedroom into a sex swing room or something like that. So you're not going to go back there. In college, you know, you have to fill out applications. That stuff doesn't happen overnight. So what are you going to do in that meantime? What are you doing in that pause time? And a lot of people don't know that. And so that's why, so shifting from what more could be done in active, now how does that look as a veteran? And I really think that active duty should take more responsibility. And I've heard this from other people, but it's not their responsibility to make sure you are successful on after you've served, which I agree, they should make sure you're successful, but if they're going to send you through basic, change your mentality, they're going to break you down and build you back up to make you successful in that military life. There's plenty of data showing that a lot of people are being unsuccessful since serving, since World War II, since World War I, since we started seeing PTSD, shell shock, all that stuff. We need to look at what we were doing because the VA is overworked. The VA is a good resource, but they're not explained to us properly. We don't know how to use them, but you're being reactive versus proactive. I'm already messed up. I have to go somewhere to get fixed versus I'm messed up now. Fix me now before I lose my best support channel. And that is, again, where we have our different thoughts on, well, if you were more of an individual thinker while you're in, you're going to do better on the outside. I think if you had more of those skills in the event that you were an individual thinker, you are going to have a better chance than the outside.
Well, there's a lot there.
I did speak for a while.
It's twofold for me because we're going to use some very general numbers because it'd be hard to do otherwise. But let's say a soldier's in for 10 years. And let's say on average for those 10 years, he made $50,000. Now, at 10 years, you should be looking at 7. You're making well more than 50,000 with BAH. But as a private, you might be pulling in 24. So let's say on average 50,000. Someone do the math, comment on, let me know how wrong I am. But 10 years, you get out, $50,000 a year. That's $500,000. What did you spend $500,000 on in 10 years? Like that's my and since we were in, BAH really changed, right? I mean, for a while they were taking all your BAH. Sometimes you got part of it. Like there's a lot of pieces there, but let's say it's 300,000. Let's say you only made 30 grand. That's still a lot of, not very much.
Yeah,
money.
But you're talking about net versus gross. I'm making 50 a year. What am I taking home?
Let's say you cleared 45. It's 450. I mean, you can pick the number, but at the end of the day, after 10 years, any civilian can do this too. Like, look, 10 years ago to today, what did you spend $500,000 on? Or what did you spend $1 million on if you make 100 grand a year? Like, no adult should have to tell another adult to save money. Hey, now if we want to get into, all right, you made it to WLC, we're kind of investing a little bit more money into you. As part of that investing process, we want to teach you how to manage finances properly. So you can go back and teach soldiers, but we want you to start TSP. Why was that not part of WLC?
Yeah,
why was that
absolutely.
Not part of base? Just make it mandatory, which this is where I kind of disagree. I don't think you should make anything mandatory as far as someone's finances because that's their choice. But if you want to go spend all your money on hookers and blow, I'm not mad at you. I think it's stupid. I'm going to laugh at you.
I know a guy.
Dumb to your face. But it happens, right? So I go back to every time I got home from deployment, I had soldiers, peers, squad leaders, whoever, they went and bought a new car. I'm still driving the used truck I had last time. I'm not mad at you. Just know that in 10 years, I'm going to be able to buy a really nice house. Hey, you do you. I don't want to work till I'm 70. I want to retire at 55. So we're saving money. That doesn't mean we can get into that later. But so the grand scheme of things, there are maybe not small, but there are things the military could do at WLC, BNOC, whatever that's called now, First Sergeant Academy, Sergeant Major Academy, whatever those schools are, those leadership schools, to instill a more general, well-trained, well-rounded leader inside and outside the military. Because to me, a leader is a leader. If you're a good leader, you can take them. It's like being a good teacher. A good teacher can teach any subject.
Yep.
Any subject. A good leader can lead anyone in any situation. That's why you see so many really good, successful leaders in the military get out and become CEOs. And they know people who know people. But good leaders are good leaders no matter where they're at. And being a good leader is having your stuff squared away, right? I mean, squaring yourself away and then squaring away. It's like the old adage on the airplane, hey, put your face mask, your oxygen mask on first because we don't want you to die helping out your kid. I think individually we have to take more responsibility for what happens outside the 9 to 5. Now, if the Army wants to kick in or the military wants to kick in and they want to provide some support, I'm all for it. But never in a million years would I ever want to tell a soldier, hey, I don't want you to better yourself because I think you need more training on the 240 Bravo. I spent more time sweeping motor pools than I did any, like, your soldiers are not filling their days with tasks that are level 1, 2, and 3 that are mandatory to get in to go to comp. Like, that's not what we're not doing. Hip pocket training 24/7. First Sergeant, you're lying to yourself. You think you are. You get your hat out of your butt and let a soldier go square some stuff away.
Yeah.
And I'm nobody special, but it doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. Sergeant Major, if you want to walk the company area and you want to hem soldiers up, have at it. Just know that you're taking it out on soldiers that could be doing stuff, bettering themselves because you're disgruntled because you were too dumb to do it before.
Yeah.
Some of the best Sergeant Major Claiborne. I mean, and I don't know if I'll ever, but I can think of some Sergeant Majors, man, I got a slew of them. Good Sergeant Majors that were squared away and they wanted nothing more than their soldiers to better themselves. Sergeant Major Claiborne right now, I'm gonna call on. I mean, he's still active. He's, I think, might be up at HRC, but he's active right now going to college. He's active right now coming up with a plan for when he retires. He's active right now trying to figure out the VA system that we all know is super screwed up.
Yeah.
Now, to fault to everybody, no fault to anybody, but I mean, it is a nightmare for soldiers to figure out. The day I got out, I thought the VA covered everybody. And my wife had been out for 3 years. I thought no matter what, rating, that wasn't a real thing. I thought you were a veteran. You got to go to the VA and get health care. No, that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured that out. I moved past it. I mean, at some point, yes, the Army should do something. I think there should be a VA brief. I think there should be an exit physical. There was no exit physical when I got out of the Army. To me, that's freaking stupid. Because that opens up a barrage of things for soldiers to later try to come back and claim, and that's what bogging up the system. But that's besides the point. It's on you to just man up and pull on your big boy pants or big girl pants and figure out life to whatever degree you want. If if you want to live in a 600 square foot house in the middle of nowhere, I'm fine with that. If you want to live in downtown LA, I'm fine with that. But you got to take it. You can't keep looking for handouts, and the veterans are some of the worst that keep going back for handouts, and it's just killing me.
Well, so again, going back to, and I think this just is ignorance of the system, and again, having the blinders on. But if leadership doesn't know college is there or how to use college, they're not going to promote you, and they're not going to be understanding. I'm sure me and you and I, we both could think of 1,000 scenarios where we were just sitting in the bay, nothing to do, waiting to get released. And what do people jump to? Oh, let's go build a glass house and do enter and clear a room. Or, hey, this is a time to really, because that's what garrison should be for. And I believe initially, or I believe essentially it is, garrison is to get your stuff squared away. So that way when you're deployed, you have nothing taking you away. You're not on a combat patrol thinking about, oh man, I got no money in my account. How am I going to feed?
Exactly.
How am I? So there was no coming down to your formation, be like, all right, who wants to go to Ed Center and enroll in some classes? Or who wants to take an hour and go talk to a financial advisor? Or who wants to, there was no promoting things that weren't inside your wheelhouse of being a gunner or being whatever. So, I think obviously that needs to be changed. The eyes need to be opened to the resources that are there and what they're actually for. Again, they're anger management. It's not just a tool for when you get in trouble, but let's bring the people in. But then, so we're missing a gap here. So let's talk about that gap. We're talking about people that are active, people that are out. I think it's a shitty situation when a soldier is like, all right, I'm going to move on from the military. I'm going to start the rest of my life. Because if you think about it, if you do 20 years, 10 years or 20 years in the military, looking at the numbers and how long people are living, even though it's maybe the most important 10, 20 years of your life, it's still the smallest. If you are going to be 80, you're 60 years, you're not a service member. Yep. So if you're given 30 days, I mean, again, this is where the individual thinker, someone as yourself, you weren't thinking 30 days out, I have to get ready. You've been getting ready your whole time, essentially. But for the majority, if you're given, even I think a year is ridiculous. A year, because we all know you don't have that full year to get ready. You have a year and there's 10 classes you can take before you hit 6 months. And then after 6 months, there's 10 more classes. But once you get in that last 90 days, that's when you really can focus. If you're given 90 days to get ready for the biggest part of your life, that's just setting you up for failure. And I think so the military, and I can only speak for the Army, but the Army needs to do a better, they're soldier for life. They need to do a better job of preparing you instead of saying, thank you for your service, push you out and move on, which I understand they have to because they have a mission, but there should be a separate piece of the military that says, all right, you gave us 5 years of your life, 10 years of your life. However, let's really make sure you're ready instead of, making sure that you're going to travel home. Are we going to pay for all of your travel home, or are we going to help you move your stuff? Make sure your TA-50 is clean. You know what I mean? I feel like they should do more, but then that's where last time you had a conversation about taxpayer and all that stuff. So where do you sit? What side do you sit on? Should the military do more?
I'm kind of between you and First Sergeant. First off, I think I don't care if you're a 3-year E4, 4-year E4, or a career soldier. I think you should be allotted the same amount of
Absolutely.
time to out process. Now that's where where I agree with First Sergeant is, and we talked about this earlier, is if a soldier needs to go to a job interview, and a lot of these people will actually do them through Zoom and some of these other, because they realize that a soldier's still, but give them a 4-day pass. Like, why are we even talking about this?
Yep.
You're just flat out wrong. Like, if you want to say you're a good leader, and that's what we all strive to be in the military, and you're not letting soldiers prepare to get out, come on, you're wrong. Any day of the week, you're wrong. Now, and I hope someone grabs this. I don't think you're big enough yet. Hopefully soon, and they go back to the archives and finds this. But I hope El Presidente or Don Jr. or whoever's the head of the VA grabs this and runs with it.
Yeah.
Why are we not offering to get soldiers that are out processing? Hey, you got to be a year out. Saturday, don't put it in the morning because God knows soldiers are still drunk. Saturday at 1 p.m., Soldier Center, Ed Center, wherever, we're going to have a licensed electrician from the local union come in, going to start doing classes. We're going to teach you some trades. Trades is what soldiers are phenomenal at trades. Why? Because we're the MacGyver, bro. I mean, we've done everything. We've cleaned bathrooms. We've serviced right. I mean, everything, right?
Yep.
So bring electrician, have electrician program, bring a plumber program, bring a welding program. I mean, there are no trades to speak of on military bases, and I'm telling you, that's where we're losing. Where's Mike Rowe at? Mike Rowe, you hear this, give me a call. We'll work something out. Let's get the trades. Let's get the trade unions. Let's get local community colleges, because the Ed Center does not have community colleges that I know of. They're all 4-year schools. Let's get them in. And not just electricians, just don't go to the electrician MOS, but get classes on non-Army time, Saturdays, Sundays, and let's get them in there. Let's get them trained up.
Yeah.
I mean, there are intelligent things we can be doing that is a better use of our time than writing resume. I mean, generic resume. We were cranking out resumes as part of your out processing that were incomplete at best because, hey, I'm not done with school. I'm not I haven't done you're telling me to write a resume about shooting dudes in the face on deployment when I, in fact, am going to a career field where that is not applicable at all. If anything,
it's actually not encouraged. You don't want to go to work for Fidelity and focus on shooting people in the face.
Yeah, it's frowned upon. It is not. We do not want you coming in and they don't want me at school shooting people in the face. That is not the right idea. So we need to step up. But nothing says that the soldier can't go down to the local electrician unions and job shadow on set. But there are things, and this is where I agree with you, that the Army could bring in just to make it a little bit easier. The one that always chapped me, dude. Oh, I get so fired up. Why are medics not nurses when they get out? Why do we not have Saturday classes to crank? My wife she was a vet tech and didn't even get the vet tech certification, which a vet tech makes $8 an hour, so it's way grossly under what why are these not firefight? Now I shouldn't speak to that because I don't know if firefighters get fire 1 and 2 and and get certified. I don't know that part. And I'm a little bit outside my realm. Sergeant Major of the Army, don't come hounding me at my door. But, like,
I'll
what
make
are
sure
we
to
doing?
post your address.
Yeah, that's fine. If he gives me a call, I will buy my own ticket out to see him, and I will advocate for the trades all day long.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I've learned since I became a teacher, which I originally went to become a business teacher, but in fact took the at-risk job, through my teaching process and then being a trustee on the local community college board, is we are not doing our trades enough justice.
Yep. Well, I've seen stats and data on that as being pushed out.
Mike Rowe, godsend. I mean, he literally was sent from the heavens above to push the trades, and I hope people start hooking to him because he's doing good things. But you know what? The demographic we need to help are the veterans.
Yep.
It gives them task. It gives them purpose. It's something we can achieve with very little overhead. We can crank out some Saturday, Sundays classes. We can 4-day weekend. I mean, there's things we can be doing that allow these soldiers to better themselves. So I don't want someone to listen to this and think from the get-go that I was or ever advocated for a soldier as soon as they get in to start looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's good that you cleared that up because it kind of sounded like that a little bit.
I hope my PL platoon sergeant, they would look back at my time, and I think my NCR OERs would reflect it, that I was an outstanding leader. That I was young, I was up and coming, I made mistakes, but when I was in the Army, I lived, breathed, and died the Army. Like I loved it. But you hit it on the head. Doing some of these things, if a soldier knows, hey, when I get back from Afghanistan, I know that I can get a trade as an electrician, he's not thinking about that on patrol because he's not worried about it. When the E6 or E7 deploys and they are praying to deploy so they can make enough money to cover their bills, that E6 or E7 is not thinking about the patrol they're on. They're thinking about, is my wife spending my money, or do we have enough to cover bills? Like, you don't need to be worried about that, bro.
Yep.
And here's how we can square you away. Like, so at the end of the day, it falls at the feet of the individual to square themselves away. But I think the Army could do a little bit more. But as a taxpayer, I don't want the Army spending $4 million on a project that no soldier goes to, because there were these man packs. I told you the story before. There are these like dismounted Duke systems, and some squads were, but like the Army spent millions of dollars on these things and we never used them. Like, get out of here. So I don't want to see the government just create a new project to create a new project. I think we get soldiers' input.
Should I have Space Force flash up as we talk about that? I definitely think assets could be reallocated to make
absolutely
things
President
work.
Trump, if you need someone to help mold and grow the Space Force, and you don't mind about their physical fitness or height and weight,
gravity out of space makes you light as a feather.
So I could be fat now and be in the Space Force. I'm your man. Like, send the Secret Service, land a helicopter in my front yard, pick me up. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So, but back to reality, because he's never going to call me for the Space Force, I'm pretty sure.
Well, if this makes it to President Trump, then I'll be pretty impressed, and then I'll forget all about what we talked about.
Yeah.
And I'll just be staring at him and.
Yeah. So. But back to the situation at hand, soldiers really need to take personal responsibility for what they're doing. All soldiers are not going to be successful no matter what we do, just like all students in high school aren't successful no matter what we do.
Yep.
But
let me stop you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
In high school, they have those, I don't know, real life classes like, taking care of a baby, sewing, cooking. They understand that everyone's not going to be successful, but they do understand that they can introduce some things that are real world that could make you be more successful or help you. Nothing makes you, help you. And I think that the military could do the same.
Yeah. So the thing is, since you brought this up, I'll talk about it. So the thing that always cracks me up is on Facebook when I see, like, why are we not taking financial literacy in high school? Or why do we not have industrial tech? We need to bring that back. Pretty much every school in the country has both of those. Most states are now making financial classes mandatory. It's not our fault, again, like privates, that your student didn't pay attention. And that's a lot of it. Now, I think financial literacy, it's not real for high school students because most of them aren't living on their own dime yet, if you know what I mean. I mean, some definitely are. Some kids in some really crappy situations, but Yeah, it's like soldiers are probably a better avenue to really introduce it. I think high school is a good start, but let's talk about just paying off debt, not getting into debt. Let's not get
Yep.
into bonds and mutual funds just yet. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. A soldier could be a great avenue to help a soldier financially, but we just got to keep it in the realm of the Army is not in the financial business; it's
Yep.
in the war fighting business, and I don't want to do anything that takes away from war fighting.
Yep. No, absolutely.
But
The
Sergeant
focus of
Major,
military is making sure,
yeah,
for
but Sergeant
infantry is
Major,
close with and destroy the enemy.
absolutely.
If
But
they can
Sergeant
work
Major,
in
don't.
financial readiness while closing with and
Yeah.
destroying the enemy, that's where I want to be at. So,
Sergeant Major, you're bullshitting a bullshitter if you're going to tell me that your soldiers don't have time
yeah,
to talk about finances. Like, you're lying to yourself. Yeah, I mean, so that's my take. I mean, in a
yep,
nutshell, over like 4 hours or however long we've been going at this, um, you just this has nothing to do with the military. This is life. You have to take personal responsibility for everything you do or fail to do
yep,
on yourself. I mean, you can't hand it off. You can't pass the buck in life. And I think as a society, as a generation, we need to do a better job of that.
yeah,
But our generation's very unique, bro. I mean, I think the best is yet to come. I think our generation's going to surprise a lot of people. I just read an article the other day. I don't know how true it is, but remember, flash it at the bottom. Everything I say is researched
fact.
and fully true. That our generation is saving money at a rate that is unheard of any generation prior. But our generation is also the most finicky and
Oh, yeah.
soft. So I mean, yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna. I really think that we got some real thinkers coming up. I think young soldiers.
Yep.
I think they're doing good things. Young soldiers aren't what we were when we were young, and furthermore, these first sergeants and which I guess we're in that age group now. Scary enough. But these sergeant majors, some of these career guys, like these soldiers that you're getting aren't these young soldiers aren't the young soldiers you were either. I mean,
Yep.
they are thinkers, and they do the way they process. They're constantly questioning, but not in a disrespectful, more in a acquisitive, wanting to understand the big picture. These are big picture thinkers. That is a good thing. Don't squash that.
Yep.
You got to take an extra 5 minutes at the op order to show them how the puzzles fit together. I mean, you're going to have a better soldier. You're going to have a better leader as they get older in the long run. So,
Yep.
again, personal responsibility to square yourself away and help your buddy. And we can
Yeah.
save helping your buddy for another day, because I think that's another thing our generation and soldiers in general is lacking is we're not doing enough for our buddy. But
Yep. And that's a good segue into the next time the next time we have a podcast together. But so I think this is a good place to stop, because obviously we could talk about this all day, all night.
Yeah.
But so I think, with your stance on individuality, my stance on more included into the regiment, I think, we both have our pros, our cons, we both have our points. And I think when it all boils down at the end of this conversation, active duty military could do more to set you up for life after, and it can do more to promote individuality, making sure you're a self-thinker and not just you enter this house with 12 rooms. How are you going to enter and clear it? You have to be a thinker, think outside the box there, but think outside the box, how you're going to be prepared, how you can pass that knowledge on.
Yep.
And I definitely think there's areas where both of our minds can come together, and active duty could do better. Whether it's you're doing better as on active duty or active duty is doing better for you. So
Yeah,
I think we had a good conversation.
To steal it from Travis Haley, thinkers before shooters. I mean, I think what you got here is a good thing, bro. I think you're killing it. I hope someday we can come back and we can really dive into it. I hope you get some people on Facebook to share it and respond and really keep the conversation going, because these are conversations that between soldier to soldier we need to have. It's not for civilians to come out and dictate what we need to take care of our own. So I appreciate you having me on, and if there's anything I can ever do to help you or anything you need from me, you know where I am.
Absolutely. And I hope that a lot of people will learn from this. And if active duty people are listening, maybe it'll broaden their horizons and take their blinders off. But man, again, we had a fantastic conversation. I know for a fact we'll have more awesome conversations in the future. And again, man, thanks for your time.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man, later.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.